Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, we're talking a little DeAndre Hopkins news. This guy got released by the Arizona Cardinals yesterday, so I want to talk a little bit about it. There's a lot of people reaching out to me saying, should the Jets go after DeAndre Hopkins? Do the Jets have the financial space to go after DeAndre Hopkins? Does it make sense? Does he actually want to come and play here? So we'll go over some video clips, some comments that were made, and some of the statistics that went into DeAndre Hopkins last year. And we're going to determine all this and see where we stand at the very end here. Now, according to some betting places, this one is PointsBet. The Jets have the third best odds. And then according to DraftKings, Jets also have, where'd it go? This way. Boom. Third best odds right there as well. So kind of interesting to see what could potentially happen with these teams. You look at the Chiefs and the Bills, and it seems like they are the two teams that most people will peg DeAndre Hopkins to want to go to. Now, as far as available cap space, you're looking at the Bills and the Chiefs are 31st and 32nd in terms of cap space. And then when you look at other teams that might possibly be interested in the star wide receiver, the Jets are sitting right at the top with $18.2 million in cap space. So the Jets have the room to be able to make this kind of deal work. Now, as far as the logistics and everything, the Jets cap space, like I said, $18.2 million. Hopkins' cost is probably going to cost you somewhere around the $18 million a year range. So you're looking at 2 years, $36 million. While you have Aaron Rodgers here, you want to try and capture as much juice as possible over these next 2 years. And then the popular thing that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about is Corey Davis. If you cut him, you can save $10.5 million, which frees up even more cap space. So technically the Jets could have like $28 million in cap space. And would they want to potentially use that to upgrade the wide receiver room? I think a lot of us would probably agree that DeAndre Hopkins and his career that he's had so far is much better than where Corey Davis is and where we kind of hope he gets to. As far as DeAndre Hopkins last year, he played in 9 games. He had a PED suspension at the beginning of the year, played 9 games, had 64 receptions, 717 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So you're saying, oh, that's really not a great stat line until you start looking at the games he played without without Kyler Murray. Remember, Kyler got hurt last year. So basically every game that he played in, 103 yards, 159 yards and a touchdown, 36 yards and a touchdown, 4 receptions, 87 yards and a touchdown, and then all these starred games were without Kyler Murray. And I don't know if you know about Arizona's quarterback room, but it looks very similar to like the Jets quarterback room last year. So, not great when you don't have your star quarterback. So when he has a stud quarterback throwing him the ball, it works out really, really well. And he hasn't really had a super stable environment to be around. He did mention that his new team would have 3 things. It would have a stable management, they would have a QB who loves the game, and a great defense. When I'm looking at these 3 line items, I'm saying, all right, stable management. This is Salah's 3rd year. Douglas has been here for 5 years or whatever he's at right now. 4.5 years, 4 years? I think it might be 4 years. So some stability there, I think. It depends how long you want to qualify stability for, but GM's been in place for a while. Head coach doesn't seem to be going anywhere right now. And now that you have Aaron Rodgers, you're going all in for what you would assume is at least 2 seasons. And a great defense. And the Jets absolutely locked and loaded last year. Defensive Rookie of the Year. You got Quinn and Williams, who were trying to figure out that whole contract situation. But like overall, the Jets have a really, really good defense. Top 5 defense last year. You expect them to be top 10 this season as well. Now, where things kind of go a little maybe awry is what happens to New York Jets? Are we in this conversation for DeAndre Hopkins, or is he going to want to just blow us completely off? In April, there was a tweet, I guess per Albert Breer, or comment saying the Jets have interest in making a run at Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. And then Sauce up here says, me and D-Hop had a great talk when I was in Dallas last week. So maybe there's a little bit of conversation going on for our young defensive rookie of the year. Maybe he's recruiting this wide receiver back in April. Now, we did hear a comment, or I shouldn't say we heard a comment. We did not hear a comment by DeAndre Hopkins. We saw a facial emoji. He was asked back in April how he would feel given his facial reaction to certain teams. So here's the clip of how he felt with the 4 teams that were mentioned.
Rumors about trade. You don't control that.
Of course not.
So I want to play another game with you, right?
All right.
I don't want you to verbally answer this question. Okay. I'm going to name some destinations. I want your body language or your facial expression to determine, like, ooh, would I like that spot if the Cardinals want to trade you? First destination, we're going to go with the New England Patriots. All right. Second destination, we're going to go with the Buffalo Bills. Third destination, we're going to go with the New York Jets. Last destination, we're going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, you know, some of the best answers are the answers where you don't hear anything.
So that's a little bit of shade thrown the Jets' way. Now, this was prior to the Aaron Rodgers trade, so let's be honest, the Jets prior to the Aaron Rodgers trade looked like a really good team minus the quarterback, but the quarterback's the most important part of the entire team. So maybe his feelings have shifted a little bit since that point. We have seen that he is following all of Allen Lazard, Sauce Gardner, and Aaron Rodgers. And he's only got he's only following 623 people. It's not like a crazy number of people when you're a star like DeAndre Hopkins. So to have all 3 on the list, not a bad thing for sure. I mean, there's going to be other players that he's following, and I'm sure he's following Stefan Diggs and Von Miller and all these other guys. So I'm sure multiple teams are probably thinking the same thing. Now, he did appear on the I Am Athlete. That's the Brandon Marshall podcast. And he was talking about 5 quarterbacks that he would want to play with.
What are some of the quarterbacks out there, if you had a list, you say, these are some dope quarterbacks that I would love to throw me the ball the second part of my career?
One of my favorite quarterbacks that I've been watching since he came in the league is Josh Allen. Josh Allen, he reminds me of an old school or of a new school Andrew Luck. And you know, I love Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. You know, man, he's Houston kid, your dog, Jalen. Number 3, who I would love to have a ball thrown by, man, Patrick Mahomes, obviously.
Ooh,
Number 4, I'm gonna have to go with. I gotta go with the underdog, man. The people, not a lot of people respect this guy, but you know, as a throwing quarterback, Lamar Jackson, obviously, and number 5. But my number 5 quarterback, man, because it's some good quarterbacks out there that's young and good. I'm gonna have to go with my dude in San Diego or the Chargers.
Herbert.
I'm gonna have to go
Justin
with
Herbert.
man.
Justin Herbert.
So no mention of Aaron Rodgers as of a week ago. That doesn't make me feel absolutely great, but at the same time, this conversation sort of felt like it was off the cuff and he didn't have all the players right in front of him. Like, it's almost like when your buddy says, oh yeah, name all the teams and all the divisions, you know, in the NFL, and you're going through and you're like, okay, which team did I actually miss? And you actually have to write down the list to be like, okay, the East, West, North, South, and you're going through the whole thing, but you're always missing that one team, and you're like, oh, the Jets. I forgot to say the Jets. Stupid thing. Something along those lines. So maybe off the cuff, he wasn't thinking Aaron Rodgers right off the bat, but he did mention Josh Allen a second time. So this, you know, obviously they had the good-looking face, the smile in the first clip, and then the second clip, he's talking about one of his favorite players in Josh Allen. This is definitely concerning for the New York Jets, and I don't particularly want to go up against DeAndre Hopkins twice a year. I don't know. I don't want him to go to the AFC. I'll put it that way. I don't want him in the AFC East. I would prefer him to go, if he's not going to the Jets, to go to a team like Philadelphia or, you know, heck, any team in the NFC for that matter. Yeah, I don't love this. It doesn't seem like he's poised to come to the New York Jets. And when I'm kind of thinking of everything else, there's 2 other stories kind of in-house that you may want to consider. And Corey Davis is obviously the person that would most likely be cut because you saved that $10.5 million if you were to bring in DeAndre Hopkins. And I don't think anyone's arguing that Hopkins is better than, or I don't think anyone's arguing that Corey Davis is not as good as DeAndre Hopkins. But when I'm looking at Corey Davis and I see that he's only costing like the $10.5 million this year, you're going to have to pay almost double that for DeAndre Hopkins just for one season of him. Is there a situation where you kind of like Corey Davis right now? You're kind of hoping for a bounce back year from him after having some injuries, maybe some drop issues, but former top 5 overall wide receiver. You have a guy that, heck, the Packers tried to trade for this dude just last year or 2 years ago, whatever it was. So at some level, Aaron Rodgers does want to play with Corey Davis. Now, that it's kind of a weird thought process, because that doesn't mean DeAndre Hopkins was also an option. When you have both guys sitting in front of you, that the option could be very well, hey, I'd rather play with DeAndre Hopkins right now. I do like putting some faith in Corey Davis. He's one player that I would kind of err on that side for, because the Jets want to be a run-first team anyway. So you're looking at, Breece Hall, the tight ends, and using some big bodies. But the doomsday scenario of what if one of our top options goes down, and then you have to revert back to say, Lazard and Corey Davis, it's going to look a lot better if DeAndre Hopkins is your number 2 wide receiver than maybe Corey Davis. And I think you're going to feel a little bit more confident. I think you can at least feel like your wide receiver core is still mostly intact, even if you were to drop a star. Now, I like the idea of bringing in Hopkins. I think if you can do it and he wants to come here, you should do it. If you're trying to get in this bidding war to get him to come here, I'm not necessarily about that. I think Corey Davis wants to be here, and I would rather the player that wants to be here rather than having to bid for the services of someone who's just a mercenary that doesn't really want to be here. And then the whole other thing is like the Quinnen Williams side of things. Like, it's not a great look if Quinnen's fighting for a contract, he's holding out of camp, and now he's removing the Jets from his social media, and then the Jets go, oh, $20 million a year to that guy that has never taken a snap for us. Yeah, let's go over there. Oh, and he didn't want to be on the Jets when we didn't have the quarterback, but Quinnen wanted to be here the whole time. So I think the optics, while one doesn't impact the other, because you can bring in DeAndre Hopkins and you can sign Quinnen Williams to a long-term deal. Those two things are not linked together, but I think the optics of it, especially, I've said it before, when teams bring in outside free agents, you want to take care of your own guys too, because the rest of the locker room's looking at this and they're saying like, well, how's that guy getting money? And how is that guy getting money? Granted, different sort of circumstances when you have a player of DeAndre Hopkins' caliber, and I think players are more willing to say, okay, we got a dog in DeAndre Hopkins, now let's take care of Quinnen. I don't know. I'm good with this. I'm cool. If the Jets want to bring in DeAndre Hopkins, I'm totally hyped on it. If they want to roll with Corey Davis, I think that's a really good option too. I don't view the Jets wide receiver room as a weakness. Now, O'Leary, Greenbean, and I were ranking the Jets wide receiver room just this past Tuesday on the Talking Jets panel, which is actually now on our new Talking Jets channel. It's not on my channel anymore. So link in the description if you want to follow that. But we were talking about the Jets wide receiver core and how we think they're probably middle of the pack, somewhere in the top 15 or so. And you add DeAndre Hopkins, all of a sudden you are talking about a top 10, top 5 wide receiver core with Garrett Wilson, Lazard, Hopkins, and Mecole Hardman. So I'm definitely not against this move in any kind of capacity. If you're going for a Super Bowl, getting in the best players possible and just figuring out the rest later, it's a pretty cool and good option. So guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you want the Jets to go after DeAndre Hopkins? Where do you think he ultimately ends up? And how much do you think he ends up signing for? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, go Jets.